All right, we're gonna do a 50,000 mile service on our 2019 Honda Pilot. It's EXL with all-wheel drive. We've had no problems with this car. What we're due for on this 50,000 mile service is we're gonna jack the car up. We're gonna show you the jack points. We're gonna rotate the tires. We're gonna change the oil. And we're going to change the engine air filter and the cabin air filter. If you're only interested in one of those things or a couple of those things, check the description to the video and it'll allow you to skip to the part that you're looking for. And also any useful items will be mentioned in the description. I'm also going to be showing you a new product that I'll be using for the first time. I'm always looking for ways to do oil changes quicker and cleaner and easier. And I have a special funnel I'm going to try out, because on these cars the oil filter is right over a support bar and the oil always drips on it. So in the past I've always taken a piece of plastic sheeting, which I'm sure I'll do again just to make sure, but it's gonna drip. And so I have a special funnel that I'll be showing to you, and we'll find out together how that works during this video. So let's get started. Okay, so one of the things that's easy to forget as you're thinking about all the maintenance things you're going to do to the car and you want to get it off the ground is the first thing you want to do if you're going to rotate the tires is loosen the lug nuts before you jack it up. That way you're using the weight of the car to loosen those up. And I'm going to be changing the oil, and so I'll provide a tip later. Even if you're not going to rotate your tires, I rotate mine every oil change, so it just makes sense for me to jack the whole car up every time I do an oil change because I rotate the tires. But as you'll see in the oil change, it makes it so much easier to access the oil filter if you remove this passenger side front tire. So even if you're not going to rotate your tires, you might want to loosen the lug nuts on this one wheel, and you'll see why when we do the oil change. So I've got a 1/2 inch ratchet extension. This was a Harbor Freight, very inexpensive, and so what it does is it allows you to change the length of it, and that's good on something like this because it gives me plenty of torque where I don't have to use a breaker bar. I can use something like this to loosen my lug nuts. And also then I've got a 21 millimeter socket made for wheels, and then I have keyed lug nuts on here where one of them on each wheel takes a special key. So I've got that with me. So I'm gonna go ahead and loosen all the lug nuts. When I say loosen, all you're doing is breaking them free. So you don't wanna turn them multiple times or anything like that. Just enough to where you are, breaking them free. All right, so we're gonna jack up our 2019 Pilot. I'm gonna show you where these jack points are and how we put it up on all 4 wheels so that we can put jack stands all the way around the car. So, okay, so the equipment that I use, I use these 2 floor jacks. They're both 3-ton. They're from Harbor Freight, and I'll use one of them on the front jack point. I'll put 2 jack stands on the front, and then I will lower the jack so that it's not only not touching the jack point, but I'll lower it several inches lower, because when we go to jack up the back of the car, it's gonna make the front of the car come back down. So you need to be careful about that, not to think that you can just put this just under the jack point when you're doing the back of the car. So we're gonna get our front on 2 jack stands, lower that several inches. We're going to use this other jack stand in the back to jack it up and get the car on all 4 jack stands. And then once it's on all 4 jack stands, then I'll jack these floor jacks back up to where they're just touching the jack point, and I do that as a safety mechanism so that if I'm under the car, you know, I have more than one thing holding it up. So this is what I'm using is 2 3-ton floor jacks, and then I have 4 3-ton jack stands that I bought off of Amazon. And I'm not particular to brands on these things. These are Torin, I believe. Yeah, Torin, 3-ton. I have a 3-ton set and a 2-ton set. The 2-ton are shorter, so I use those on sedans, and the 3-tons I use on the SUVs that we have. And so that's what I use. The 3-ton are a little bit wider base, so they have a little more stability, and they're taller so that you have more stability when you're going higher. So the first thing I'll do is, let me get a light. I'm going to show you the jack points before I jack it up. Okay, so the front jack point on this car is very close to the front. So we're going to point that out to you. It's this point right here. You've got this bracket right here that's reinforced on this crossbar. So we've got the saddle of our floor jack where it's gonna hit right there. And that's our front jack point right here. So we're gonna jack up the front. So all I really need, since I'm really not working under the car much, all I'm doing is changing the oil into there. I don't need a lot of clearance, but I need my front tires off the ground, but I also got to realize when I jack the back up, the front tires are going to go down a little bit. So I want to get a little more height out of this than what I think I need, so that I don't end up having to adjust it later. I do have the emergency brake on. I usually don't chock the wheels when I'm jacking up the whole vehicle. You can do that. I think I'm going to go just a little bit more where I can get one more notch on that there. Okay, so that's in a good spot. I'm gonna go check the other side. Let me go ahead and point this out. One of the things on almost every car that is consistent is where you actually put your jack stand. So almost every car has these reinforced points. So see on this car, it's got these reinforced pieces of metal right here. That's where your jacks go, your jack stands. So the jack stand point is there. And then, you know, our floor jack has a jack point, but this is for jack stands. So now I've got this side and the other side resting right under there. So now I'm gonna slowly release my floor jack. And if you've never used a floor jack, you release it by rotating the handle counterclockwise very slowly. And so when you wanna jack up a car, you always make sure it's rotated clockwise all the way before you jack up a car. So I'm gonna release it by going counterclockwise slowly and just let the car gently down on this jack stand. Okay. See, it's still settling. And now, at this point, the car is 100% supported in the front by those jack stands. So I'm gonna check them. That's in a good spot. It's very stable. It's locked in. This other side, make sure it's the same way. Very stable. Locked in. And like I said, when I work under there, I would make sure that this floor jack was touching the jack point. But because I'm getting ready to jack up the back of the car, I'm gonna lower it several inches, like 3-4 inches, to accommodate what's about to happen. So now I'm gonna show you the jack point in the back. This car has very good jack points. It's very easy car to figure out what to do. So got a little helper here. She gets excited about helping with these car projects. So here, there is our jack point right there. Same as in the front, got a bar going across, and that's on there for that purpose. So we take our jack saddle, we got our jack handle rotated all the way clockwise so that it'll jack up the car. I just carefully line the saddle up so it'll be in the middle of that jack point. So there I am. So now we're jacking it up. And this one, all I really need is the back tires to be off the ground because I've already got the front jacked up. So this is very predictable because it's not gonna go down. So I got enough clearance already to rotate the tires. I'm gonna go see about my jack stands. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and give myself a little bit more height so I can try to get pretty level. Alright. Okay. So that one is ready. I'm gonna go get the other side ready so we can set it down. All right, here I go. I'm gonna turn this handle slowly counterclockwise. We're gonna set that down on the jack stands. You can slowly hear it settling. And at this point, it's all the weights on the jack stands. And now I'm gonna tighten this jack back up by turning this handle clockwise. And I'm gonna slowly pump it up until it just makes contact with the jack point. And I'm gonna leave it there as a safety measure, where now both the jack stands and the jack are supporting it in the back. I'm gonna just double check my jack stand that it's solid. On this side. Okay. So now remember, I put this one down lower because I knew the front was going to come down as the back came up. So now I've got to remember to close that gap. So, and it moves also. So the car moves a little bit when you jack the back up. So I got to kind of realign this one with my jack point, tighten up my jack by going clockwise with the handle, and then just make contact with the jack point. So now I've got 6 contacts holding up this car. 4 jack stands and 2 floor jacks. Okay, so now that we have the car safely on jack stands, the next thing we're going to do is change the oil. So in this vehicle, it's kind of way down in there. Your oil dipstick to check your oil is over on this side, this orange thing, but your oil fill cap is way down here. So you may want to take this off when it's on the ground, because sometimes these are on super tight. This one was not, but I usually would do this on the ground. So it tells you right there, use a 0W20. I always follow whatever the manufacturer recommends. And then so dust and dirt don't get in our oil, I'm gonna rest that in there. But the reason that I loosen it and rest it is because you want air to flow when you're draining the oil. You want the oil to be able to come out. All right, so the first thing on this car, we're rotating the tires anyway. So I gotta take the tire off anyway. But even if you're not, it would save you, I believe it's worth the time, to go ahead and remove this one wheel to access the oil filter on this car. So I've got an impact gun. I don't use it really as an impact gun. I'm using it more as a drill, because I've already loosened everything. So I've got my wheel socket on there, my 21 millimeter, and we're just gonna remove this wheel. This is my key. Sometimes these are take a minute to get on there, right? This impact gun is worth getting out just to save time. After I get lug nuts started, I use it to snug them. I never use it to tighten them, because it'll over tighten. I always use a torque wrench to tighten them at the end. We'll get to that later. So in my tire rotation on this car, the front tires go to the back on the same side, and the back tire crisscrosses and goes to the front on the opposite side. But what we're gonna do now, since we're just doing the oil change, is we gotta set this tire somewhere anyway. And it's a common practice for a lot of people to set them under the car as kind of another safety measure if something were to fall. And I don't think we need that with the jack stands and the floor jack, but we gotta set it somewhere anyway, so it makes sense to just set it there. So now what you'll see, if you're wondering if this is worth it or not, there's our oil filter right there. So now it's super easy to get to. And you'll see in the design of this huge support bar directly under the oil filter. And so the challenge with that is, one thing is it limits the type of oil filter wrench you can use, because you got to fit it in there. So really a strap style is about the only thing I would recommend to use with this, where you put the strap on, and I'll show you that in a second. But the other thing is I'm going to be trying out a new product today, an oil filter funnel. So it'll funnel the oil hopefully into our drain pan and leave it off of this. So I always cut a little piece of plastic sheeting to cover that, and I'm still going to do that today, and maybe always will, but I'm also going to try out that funnel, and so we'll find out together if it works and how that works. So I'm going to move my lug nuts aside since we're going to be working in this area. I'm going to move all my wheel stuff over here, and we'll wait on doing anything else with the wheels until our oil change is complete, so we can just focus on one thing at a time. Okay, so I got the plastic sheeting under here. Got it kind of draped over my floor jack so it covers everything, keep the driveway nice. And I mentioned I'll put a little piece of plastic sheeting over that crossbar. I just cut it off the plastic sheeting that I'm using. So I just grabbed some scissors and just cut me off a nice little piece. And then I just drape it over this crossbar underneath that oil filter. And by the way, I did run the car. I let the car idle so the engine would warm up before I started this job, just while I was getting some tools ready and everything. So our engine oil is hot. I'm just gonna kind of drape this around like that. It just helps, whatever drips off of there helps contain the mess. So now I'm gonna go get my pan that'll catch all of our oil. Okay, so the oil filter wrench I was mentioning looks like this. This is what I'm using. They come in different ranges of diameter. These Honda filters are really small. This is our new filters, just to kind of show you. So you put it on loose like that, and then as you turn it counterclockwise, it tightens up for you. So the range on this one is 2.375 inches to 2.825 inches, or 60.3 millimeters to 66.7 millimeters. I bought this off of Amazon many years ago, but that kind of helps you. This one's called a swivel gripper. That's the filter wrench I use for this vehicle. Also, the new product that we're using today, the new product I bought off of Amazon, is called a Fumoto flexible draining tool. It's a very simple concept on these cars where you loosen the oil filter. As soon as you loosen it, oil starts to drip out. Nothing you can do about it. You just turn it a couple turns, get away from it, just that oil that's in there, let it drip out. And so what this does is it comes flat in this package, and then it's got something inside, some sort of metal or something that allows you to form it, and it stays where you form it. It's very simple. And then it's made to wipe off. Can't remember if it's made out of silicone or what it's made out of, but it's very durable. So the idea is that I would get you don't have a lot of clearance in there. Most vehicles you do. So I would put my filter wrench on first so that I know I can get it loose. And then I'm gonna take this and kind of shove it in there flat, and then see if I may not have enough downward room, but I'm gonna try it. So I'm gonna form it like that, and then I'll move my drain pan out here, and we will see how that works. First time doing it. All right, let's give it a shot. So I'm gonna loosen it now, wait for the mess to come. Of course, I messed up. I put my filter wrench on the wrong way. I put it on in a way of tightening. So I want to loosen, so I want to put it on this way. So I'm gonna turn that around, put that in there like that. Okay, should drain right into my oil pan. So I start loosening. I should be getting a mess soon. Okay. Okay, I got it loose and I'm not getting anything, so I'm gonna take this opportunity to maybe get my wrench out. Oh, there's the mess. So I can't really get my wrench out, which is kind of not good. But anyway, I'm gonna see what happens if I keep loosening this filter. Once you get it loose, you can do it by hand. Be nice if I had room to get my wrench out of the way, but I don't, so that's no big deal. This really isn't a lot of oil. Most cars, this funnel would work very nicely in. In my CRV, I haven't had a chance to try it yet, but I will the next time, and I know it's going to work in there because I have plenty of room under the filter to guide it, unlike this one. But I think this is still working. This doesn't look like a lot of oil, but that's a lot of mess if it drips on your crossbars and such. I think our filter is off now. We're very close to being off. Yeah, there it is. So I'm going to keep this funnel there, kind of push it in while I'm pulling out on my filter. There's my filter. I'm going to turn it upside down right there. There's my filter wrench. And I think we're good. I'll go ahead and take these gloves off because the only oil that's dripped was off my glove onto my plastic sheeting. I'll take these gloves off. They're done. Grab a rag, get these couple of drops that came off my glove so I'm not rolling around in that later. I'm going to carry these gloves over to the trash can. So, got some new gloves on. You can tell by looking that the top of the funnel is clean. So that means that all of it should have gotten trapped in that funnel. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to let that sit for a second while we prepare our new oil filter. So I got my new Honda oil filter here. One of the cool things about Hondas is they all take the same oil filter. No different sizes except for the Honda S2000, which they haven't made in many years. Okay, so I got my new oil filter here. So we always want to make sure on our old filter that the rubber ring came out with it, which it did, the black ring. And then on our new filter, we want to take our new oil we're about to put in, get our finger in that new oil, just get it on our glove, and then get a good amount on our black ring. Just kind of really seal it up good, get that rubber ring coated with the new oil, help it make a good seal. So, all right, so now we got that done. I'll put the cap back on until we're ready to add our oil in later. So now we're gonna remove that funnel. We're gonna wipe down the threads where our oil filter goes. So we're just gonna take this funnel and just set it in our drain pan like that. And what we have is a very clean job. So I'm just really wiping down the surface where the new filter meets the base. So just trying to wipe that down good. Let me grab the camera and I'll just kind of show you if you're not familiar. So right under here, see if I can see what the camera is looking at. Yep. So that's where our new filter goes, on these threads right here. That's the threads that goes in the middle. So just like this, and then you're just gonna want to try to line it up by hand and just slowly get it started. So once you get it lined up, it's easy, and you just spin it on. Okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and get my plastic sheeting, get some of the stuff out of my way. Because what you do here, see, look how clean this sheet is. It just had a couple of minor marks on it like that from something. So that's definitely worth it, even on this car. But what we're gonna do here is we spin this new funnel, this new filter on by hand until it makes contact with the base. Okay, so we're just starting to make contact where it's just touching. So now I'm gonna dry my hand because I'm trying to get some grip. concrete truck going by. I wondered what was making that noise. So now we're just gonna grab it really good and just turn it by hand. Hand tighten it only. Don't use a tool. Do not use your oil filter wrench. That is plenty tight. Never had one leak. Just doing it by hand. So the oil filter's done. So now all we gotta do is drain our oil. If you have a regular Pilot, you would get your socket, the proper socket size out. Take your drain bolt out and drain your oil. I have a Fumoto valve on this. If you aren't familiar with those, it's a substitute for your regular drain bolt, where it all you have to do is turn a valve to drain your oil. You don't have to mess with the drain bolt. We're gonna probably clean this stuff up later, so I don't take up your time with that. So I'm gonna slide this under here. My drain bolt from this oil filter is straight down and over about a foot is all. I had a drop of oil from our filter drip onto my oil drain pan. So here, if you want me to get it. So here I am under the car. You can see the oil filter right there where I'm pointing, and then right down here under the car, this is where your drain bolt's going to be that you would loosen to drain your oil, and then you'd replace your crush washer and put the drain bolt back on after the oil's drained. Since I have a Fumoto valve, spelled F-U-M-O-T-O, I have a video on how to install those on my channel, and I'm just going to line my drain pan up with the bottom of this valve, because it's going to go wherever I put it. So it's going to go right there, and I'm going to take this valve right here, pull it towards me and rotate it up, and there's my oil. And that's how easy it is. So I will just let that drain now. So we'll let that drain and check back in with you. Okay, since we're rotating our tires while that oil's draining, we're going to go ahead and get our tires off and move them to the right location. So that tire's going here. I'm just going to leave it there. That's close enough. And I will start moving all the other ones. So this one is going to go to the front on the other side. So when I get rocks like this, they look like they're just never going to come out, I'll just go ahead and carefully pry them out with a screwdriver. Because boy, they really dig in. I don't worry about those little ones, of course. Let me show. This Fumoto valve is down to a extremely light drip, but it is still dripping. So you could stop it at this point and go ahead and close it, but since I have to rotate the tires anyway, I might as well go ahead and put the tires on and just let all that oil come out. It's not hurting anything. It's a good time when your wheels are off to just visually look at your brake pad. So if you look, these are your brakes on disc brakes, and the part that touches your rotor, this part here, is your brake pad. That is plenty good. And so what I've found on Hondas is that if you drive reasonably, your brakes will last a very long time. These are original, of course. This has 50,000 miles. Those brake pads are great. My Honda CR-V has 97,000 miles on it. Those are original brake pads, and they're doing fine. So one of the great things that saves money with Hondas that I've found are the brakes. So anyway, we're gonna put this on. And again, all we're doing is snugging these up. These wheels are heavy, so for me to put these on and not hurt my back, another reason to have extra support under your car with the jack stands and the floor jacks is because my legs are under here. I really got to kind of get in this position. I want to make sure I'm not kicking my jack stands and just kind of get the wheel where the lug nuts are almost, you know, lined up the best I can with the lug pattern. And then I just lift it up and push it forward onto the lug nut. Just like that. So I got it on there fairly good. Hold it on there with my legs. And then always start these by hand. Never use any kind of pneumatic or any kind of power equipment. You can cross thread. I also don't recommend using an impact gun or pneumatics to torque them down. Always use a torque wrench. So what we're gonna do is start these by hand, like several turns, 3, 4, 7, 8 turns. And then we will use our impact gun, not to, sometimes it's hard to get those keys on when they're loose. We'll use our impact gun not to tighten them, but to snug them. So just kind of start off by lightly putting them on there. You always kind of go in every other lug nut, start somewhere and then go every other. Now that we've made one pass, we'll kind of go again. Okay, so we want them, you know, really snug because we're going to set the car down all its weight on this wheel. So we definitely don't want any threads showing. We want all of them, you know, we're just not clamping down on our impact gun. So we're snugging them up. And then once it's down, we'll use a torque wrench to torque them to the factory spec. Okay, so that's 3 of our wheels on. Now we're gonna take care of this oil before we put our last one on, since it's easier to access. So all we gotta do now, I'll take the camera under here with me to show we're going back under. The oil is just barely dripping now. So we're gonna close that valve. And we do that again by pushing in the spring-loaded valve. We're going to push in and rotate down, and that is going to close the valve just like that. All right. Okay, so now that our oil is drained and we've cleaned up everything and our valve is closed and our filter is on, now we're going to put our last wheel back on. We rotated all the tires, so now what we have left on the tire rotation would be to set the car down, torque down all the lug nuts, and then check the air in all the tires. And on the oil change, we need to add our oil. And so what we're going to do now is go ahead and get the car off of the jack stands. Okay, so to get the car off of jack stands, we do reverse order of what we did. So remember, so we're gonna go ahead and begin by getting the back of the vehicle off of jack stands. I don't have to worry about changing this jack position because the car is gonna actually go up, not down this time. So all I have to do is come back here. Start jacking up the back of the vehicle. Make sure that I'm still on my jack point there. Just jack it up a few times. That should be enough to free these jack stands. pull the handle, get them out of the way. So now I have no jack stand, so now I'm going to slowly lower the vehicle down by rotating this counterclockwise and just do it very slowly. Let those tires hit the ground. Just kind of let it down all the way. All right. Okay, so now I'm going to do the same thing here. This one, need to make sure the saddle is in the right place. So I get down here where I can see. Okay, I'm in a good spot. Same thing, get about 3 or 4 pumps. Take the pressure off the jack stands. Okay. All right, we had some neighbors stop and pet our puppy. So after we've jacked it up in the front, this is how you release your floor jacks. You just lift up on this. And see, it's not coming yet. So that means I need to jack it up a little bit more. I'll give it about 3 more pumps. Now I'll give it another pull. Just pull it like that. I'll go do the other side. Always make sure you're not going to trip over your floor jack as you're going around the car. Pull this one. Now go ahead and set this down lightly. Never set it down hard. Okay. So now that our car is off of the jack stands, I'm just going to move them out of the way so they're not in my way when I torque down the lug nuts. So I can always try to remove trip hazards from your workspace. I always just kind of clean up as I'm done with tools and equipment, and I just kind of put it away as I go. All right, so now to complete the tire rotation, since my mind's kind of on that, 94 foot-pounds of torque. So I go ahead and I have my torque wrench, and I've got it set, probably can't see, but 94 foot-pounds. Got my 21 millimeter socket on there for my wheels. Got my wheel key on there. So all I do is turn this until it clicks one time, and then it's done. So that's it. So then I'll move, I skip a lug nut. Skip a lug nut. Okay, that one's done. I'll just move around the car. All the tires get inflated to 32 psi all the way around. We'll do that at the end. I'm gonna go ahead and do the oil change, but I'm just gonna show you. If you don't know, don't look at your tire. Look at this sticker on the inside of your car. Every car's got one. So front tire, 32 psi. Rear tire, 32 psi. It also shows you your spare tires, 60 psi, but we're just doing the 32s. So always go by that. If you go by what's on your car tire, you're probably way overinflated. Okay, so this vehicle takes 5.7 quarts. I've changed the oil enough to know that I can just go ahead and trust that and put in exactly 5.7. I have this 2-quart pitcher I bought where I marked tenths of quarts. Sometimes I have to rewrite it on there with a marker, but so I'm first, this is a oil that was left over from my last oil change, and I'm hoping I have 0.7 in there because I have this in a 5-quart jug. Okay, look at that. Perfect. So we're gonna put this in, and then I'm not gonna have to use this pitcher for the other 5 quarts because that's what this is, an unopened 5-quart jug. So this worked out perfect. If it didn't, I would just, you know, do the 1.7 and then 2 and 2, and I'd have my 5.7 quarts. But in this case, this is all I have to do. So we're gonna go put this in and this in. So on this vehicle, the oil fill is really down in there. It's really far down in there. Kind of strange, but so what I do is reach down in here. I've already loosened that cap so the oil would drain better. I always just kind of wipe it off real good so that when we put it back on, everything's good and clean. Just gonna set that right here. And then I have this kind of funnel I bought just so it would fit really securely down in there without having to put my funnel down there. I like my funnel up here where I can see it. It's kind of a neat funnel. It's got a little filter in the bottom of the funnel so it would catch anything that wasn't supposed to be in there. So now I just fill it up, 5.7 quarts. Taking off the little foil seal inside the cap. It's got a little thing on the funnel for you to hold, little handle. I always just make sure it's in the hole, and then I don't pour it in too fast. I just kind of pour steady. Okay, so that's all of our oil. Give that oil a few seconds to kind of drain out. I try to get my rag down in there where as soon as I lift the oil out of the port there, I'm kind of grabbing the end of it so I'm not dripping oil. Kind of keep all this together, keep oil off of things. And we'll take our cap, put it back on. You don't really want to over tighten these. Just put it on there snug where it's on there, but you're not really bearing down on it. All right, so that completes our oil change. One thing that we'll do now is we're going to change the engine air filter and the cabin air filter. All right, we're going to change our engine air filter. I recommend doing this every 10,000 miles. These things are very cheap, especially if you buy them off of Amazon. This is an Ecogard XA10486. I'll put a link in the description. So on this vehicle, the engine air filter doesn't require any tools, which is nice. So we're going to go ahead and start off. It's got some instructions in there if you need them. So we're going to go ahead and just open the plastic so we can get to it fairly quickly. Just going to go ahead and set it out of there. Okay, so you don't need any tools, but you've got these 3 spring-loaded clips. You've got these 2 right here. And you've got one right here. Can you see that? Right there. It looks just like these 2. So we're gonna get this side one, So you're just pushing down with your thumb. These are a little bit sharp, so if you wanted to wear some gloves, that would be fine, because the edge of that metal is a little bit rough. So once you release those three, you can just kind of pry this open. You don't need it to open all the way, so don't make it harder than it needs to be. So now I can get to the old filter. Just kind of jiggle it out like that. Boy, that looks brand new. And that looks new. This has been in there 10,000 miles. These are very inexpensive. I'm going to go ahead and change it. But if you didn't want to change it, that would be fine. This looks fantastic. And I don't really see that it has, I'm not sure if it has a direction or not. There is a difference in just this tab was on this end, so I could turn it where this tab is on that end, but I don't think it probably matters. And that air box is very clean. If it was dirty, we could vacuum it out. Fits right in. I'm just going to test it the other way, see if it matters. Doesn't matter. Goes in, well, I say that. I think, yeah, because of this right here. The little thin one goes in between these two plastic supports. So you want your thin plastic piece going in first. It goes in there first. And then your fatter end goes in right here. So it does matter how it goes in. And then you just want to get your clips out of your way. And then you just kind of jiggle. If you can look right here, there's these plastic ends right here that have to kind of go down. So you want to kind of angle it down, get your back end pushed in like that, and then the front end goes right down. So just kind of look at what you're doing. If you're facing resistance, there's probably just something simple like that. Those clip back on. And now you've just saved yourself probably a good 40 bucks by doing your own engine air filter in less than a couple of minutes. So that's the end of our engine air filter. Okay, we're going to change our cabin air filter. I do this about every 10,000 miles. Usually my filters are still pretty clean, but that's the way I like it. They're very inexpensive. This is an Ecogard XC35519. I'll put the link in the description. You can get whatever brand you would like off of Amazon or wherever you want to buy it. We're going to go ahead and just take our new one out. I'm going to just go ahead and open it. Okay, so on this car it's very simple. We already kind of cleaned all the stuff out of our glove compartment to make this easier. So just open your glove compartment, push in on these two plastic sides like this, in, and then they fall down like that. Now let me kind of, okay. So when you look in here, you're gonna see this plastic cover. This is where our cabin air filter is. There's a tab right here we can push in, and there's a tab right here we push in. And so you can do that with two hands, easier. But I was able to do it with one, just one at a time. You pull it out, and there is your air filter right there. So what we have here, on here, is it says airflow down. It's got a down arrow, so that's important. So we're going to take out our dirty air filter. I mean, it's not bad. Even on the directions it said to change every 15,000. I think I change them every 10, but I like the clean air. It's dirty, but as far as air filters go, it's clean. It's pretty clean. So what we're going to do is, on our new filter, when we put that in, we're going to look for some writing that says airflow down to match that airflow down. So we're going to put that in there just like that. So we get our airflow down arrow on our filter matching the airflow down arrow on our plastic. And then we just line it back up. Okay, so we just get it lined up there. And then we just kind of push it back. Kind of jiggle it, and then you should hear them snap. So I heard them snap, so it's all the way in. And then we just take our glove compartment again and push in on the two sides again to get it past that point. And now the soft close still works. And then we'll put things back in our glove compartment and we'll be done. So that's your cabin air filter change. Only takes a few minutes. Probably save you at least $40 from doing it somewhere else. Hope that's been helpful. Okay, so now we're gonna reset our maintenance minder. So we're gonna start the car up. And over here, I'm gonna hit the home button. I'm gonna go to settings. I'm gonna go to vehicle. I'm gonna go down to maintenance information. I wanna reset my engine oil. I don't know why it says unable, because it does, it resets it. And then I'm gonna reset my tire rotation. So our oil change and everything are done. Okay, so now that we've done everything, all that we have left to do that I won't show you on video, is we're just gonna check the air in the tires and make sure they're all at 32 PSI, and this job is done. So please remember to look in the video description for links and helpful tips. And so I hope this video has been helpful for you.